key takeaway number 2 is don't be sold the old. I'll just flip to the next slide just to quickly show you what the old is. So traditionally, and we did this ourselves up to 5 years ago, is the fabric is retained in the 2 side guides using a bolt, a nut, or a popper through the fabric, just like a fabric popper like you see there. This is very enlarged, blown up, so you can see it. This is a section through the side guide, but essentially that popper will stop the fabric coming out through that gap. It's the only thing that stops it coming out of the gap. So if you push against the fabric, like fire will do, it will exert a pressure in a fire, then those poppers, or if it's a nut and a bolt, will stop it coming out of the guide, so it'll stay in place and do its job. The only trouble with this is that old design is the 3 most common headaches with fire curtains are all traced back to that design. So you can see from the images there, you've got tears in the fabric where the poppers have just torn out. That leads to even bigger gaps. These poppers are spaced maybe 200 mil apart or 500 mil apart, depending on the design that someone has. And when you lose one through the fabric tearing, you then have got a much bigger gap. And obviously that then means the fire curtain won't act and perform in a fire as it was tested. The middle image there, which is a graph from a fire test in 1363, which is the heat curve, which is used for all fire tests. That just shows you the temperature after 5 minutes in a fire, which is, if you want me to read the table, but we can get you a copy of this afterwards and we've got it on the website. It's over 500 degrees in a fire test after less than 5 minutes. So just to come back to this design here, so you've got with the old design, you've got penetration of fabric, which leads to tears and rips. You've got the metal nuts or poppers, these jamming guides, and we get caught. Just to give you an idea, you've probably had, if you're familiar with fire curtains, you've probably had projects with these on. Is the metal popper, the fabric won't necessarily unroll perfectly square every time. Obviously, what's okay in a laboratory setting when you're doing a test is one thing, and then what's installed out on site, you might say in a construction environment, it can be something a little bit different. Might well work on day 1 handover, but what we see is over months or years, these jamming frequently, and we get caught out to them. So we and then the other feature there you can just see is the cold smoke seals. I won't go into too much detail on that. We have got an article and we'll be glad to talk to anyone afterwards or anytime on those, but we do have articles on it. But essentially cold smoke seals are a polypropylene filament which melt at 170 degrees C. And just back to that graph that I showed you is after less than 5 minutes in a fire, you're at 570 something degrees C. So those cold smoke seals might be on a 2-hour rated fire curtain, and they're lasting only seconds in natural fire temperatures. So some step change improvements. We basically realized sort of some 5 years ago that if fire curtains were really going to realize their potential, you know, they're great products. If they're going to realize the potential, we needed to come up with a design that overcame these headaches. So we came up with a design you can see here on the screen, which is a full-length steel pole in the guide where the fabric is wrapped around that and then double stitched back. What this gives you is it means that there's no more rips and tears in the fabric because we don't have any penetration. We've not got any jamming and snagging because we've not got those traveling fasteners or bolts or poppers. And we don't have any gaps and billowing at the edges because we've got continuous retention. This has been described as genius by people in the industry who have been familiar with fire curtains and their issues, which are frustrating when you've got such a good concept as a fire curtain. And then we've come up with this design, as I say, been nominated for awards, London Construction Awards this year. It's all third-party tested and certified. So it's we mention it as new, but it's actually a few years now in the running. And we also we use fire-resistant components for the smoke control. So we're using the same fire-resistant fabric to achieve our smoke control, and again third-party tested. So there's no polypropylene cold smoke seals in there. Again, we can discuss around the British standards when we've got some more time. If anybody's interested, be more than happy to discuss that. We also have a REBA accredited CPD, which goes over all these points in a bit more detail, and there's more time obviously to discuss